You've heard it 1,000 times. Drink green tea to burn fat. Black coffee before your workout. EGCG is the secret. Caffeine boosts your metabolism. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most of what you've been told about both of these drinks is either exaggerated, outdated, or flat out wrong. And I'm going to settle this debate today with actual science, actual numbers, and a clear winner. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which drink to reach for if fat loss is your goal, when to drink it, and what most people get completely wrong that wipes out all the benefits. Stay with me. This one's going to change how you think about your morning routine. Let's be honest about where most people are right now. You're probably already drinking one of these, maybe both. Maybe you switched from coffee to green tea because you heard it was healthier. Maybe you chug a black coffee before the gym because some fitness influencer told you it burns more fat. But here's what's actually happening. You're making your drink choice based on vibes, not science. And that's not your fault. The fitness and health space has done a spectacular job of cherry-picking studies, throwing around terms like thermogenesis and catechins to sound smart, while completely leaving out the context that makes those findings actually useful. Here's what you don't know. Most of the studies showing green tea burns fat were done on people who were not regular caffeine consumers. The moment you account for caffeine tolerance, the results change dramatically. And on the coffee side, most people are drinking their black coffee wrong, at the wrong time of day, which actively works against their cortisol levels and their fat-burning goals. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break this down properly. No hype. No supplement ads disguised as health advice, just the mechanisms, the evidence, and the practical takeaway. Let's get into it. Before you can understand which one wins, you need to understand what's actually happening in your body when you drink either of them. Let's start with black coffee. When you drink black coffee, the primary active compound doing the work is caffeine. Here's what caffeine actually does for fat burning. One, it stimulates your central nervous system, which triggers the release of epinephrine, also called adrenaline. That adrenaline signal tells your fat cells to break down stored fat and release it into your bloodstream as free fatty acids. Two, caffeine inhibits an enzyme called phosphodiesterase. This keeps a molecule called CAMP elevated for longer. CAMP is basically the burn fuel signal inside your cells. Higher CAMP means more fat oxidation. Three, caffeine raises your metabolic rate. Studies consistently show it increases resting metabolic rate by somewhere between 3 and 11%, depending on dose and individual. So coffee's fat-burning mechanism is simple. Adrenaline spike, fat cells release, burn. Now, green tea. Green tea does contain caffeine, but significantly less than coffee. A typical cup of green tea has 25 to 50 milligrams of caffeine. A cup of black coffee has 80 to 100, so right off the bat, the caffeine effect is smaller. But here's where green tea gets interesting. Green tea contains compounds called catechins, and the most powerful one is called EGCG, or epigallocatechin gallate. EGCG does something caffeine can't do alone. It inhibits the enzyme that breaks down norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is the signal that tells your body to keep burning fat. Normally, an enzyme called COMT comes along and degrades norepinephrine, cutting the fat-burning signal short. EGCG blocks COMT, which means the fat-burning signal stays active longer. So green tea's mechanism is caffeine plus EGCG, norepinephrine stays elevated longer, prolonged fat burn. Here's the key insight. Green tea is not just caffeine, it's a caffeine amplifier. The catechins and the caffeine work synergistically. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Coffee is a more powerful short-term stimulant. Green tea creates a longer, more sustained effect. Round one, it's complicated, but keep watching. But here's what the studies almost never tell you. The studies that made these drinks famous for fat burning, most of them were done on people who hadn't consumed caffeine in weeks. If you drink coffee or tea every day, and most of you do, the game changes completely. This is the part of the conversation nobody wants to have because it's inconvenient. When researchers test caffeine's effect on fat burning, they frequently use subjects who have been caffeine-free for days or weeks beforehand. Why? Because it makes the results cleaner and more dramatic. But you're not caffeine-free. You probably had coffee or tea yesterday and the day before that. Here's what happens with caffeine tolerance. Your body is incredibly good at adapting. When you consume caffeine regularly, your cells upregulate adenosine receptors. They literally grow more of the receptors caffeine blocks. The result? The stimulant effect weakens, the metabolic boost shrinks. Over time, habitual caffeine users see significantly reduced thermogenic effects compared to non-users. A meta-analysis published in the International Journal of Obesity found that the fat oxidation benefits of caffeine were substantially higher in non-habitual users than in regular consumers. So if you're banking on that morning coffee to torch fat while you're already a daily coffee drinker, you're probably getting less than 20% of the metabolic effect you'd get if you weren't tolerant. Now here's where green tea has an interesting edge. The EGCG in green tea, that catechin that blocks the enzyme that breaks down norepinephrine, that mechanism doesn't develop tolerance the same way caffeine does. Your body doesn't downregulate the COMT enzyme or build a resistance to EGCG the way it does with caffeine's receptor effects. This means regular green tea drinkers may continue to see fat-burning benefits from EGCG even after caffeine tolerance develops. A landmark study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that green tea extract increased fat oxidation by 17% compared to a caffeine-only control, and this effect was observed even in regular caffeine consumers. 17%, that's not a rounding error. The practical takeaway here, if you're a daily caffeine consumer, which most people watching this are, green tea's EGCG might be doing more ongoing work for your fat burning than the caffeine in either drink. But we're not done. There are 3 more factors that could completely flip your decision. Let's talk timing, because you can be drinking the right thing and still be sabotaging yourself by drinking it at the wrong time. For black coffee, the biggest mistake people make is drinking coffee immediately after waking up. Here's why that's a problem. When you wake up, your cortisol levels are naturally at their highest point of the day. Cortisol is your alert hormone, and it peaks roughly 30 to 45 minutes after you open your eyes. This is called the cortisol awakening response. Caffeine also raises cortisol. If you spike caffeine on top of an already high cortisol peak, you're not getting extra benefit. You're just overshooting. And over time, this repeated cortisol overstimulation can contribute to adrenal fatigue, increased fat storage around the midsection, and ironically, a faster caffeine tolerance development. The optimal window for black coffee, 90 to 120 minutes after waking. At that point, your cortisol is starting to naturally decline. Caffeine gives it a second wind, and you get the full metabolic hit without the cortisol overlap. For fat burning specifically, research also suggests drinking coffee 30 to 60 minutes before exercise maximizes fat oxidation during the workout. Caffeine pre-exercise increases the percentage of fat used as fuel during training, particularly for moderate intensity cardio. For green tea is more flexible, but timing still matters. EGCG absorption is actually enhanced when green tea is consumed away from meals, particularly away from iron-rich foods, because iron binds to catechins and reduces their absorption. Drink green tea 1 to 2 hours before or after eating for maximum EGCG bioavailability. Green tea before a fasted morning walk? Excellent. The low caffeine plus EGCG combo keeps you alert without spiking cortisol aggressively while supporting fat oxidation during your movement. Green tea in the afternoon slump? Also solid. The L-theanine in green tea, an amino acid that promotes calm focus, combined with the moderate caffeine, gives you a clean, non-jittery energy lift that coffee can't match. Coffee wins for pre-workout fat-burning timing. Green tea wins for all-day metabolic support without hormonal disruption. What if you could get the benefits of both without doubling your caffeine intake? The answer isn't just drink more of both. In fact, stacking them without strategy will backfire. Let me show you how to do this right. Let's ground this in actual numbers, because vague claims like boosts metabolism are meaningless without context. Black coffee. What the research shows, caffeine at doses of 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight has been shown to increase metabolic rate by 3 to 11%. For a 70-kilogram person, that's roughly 210 to 420 milligrams of caffeine or 2 to 4 cups of coffee. One study found that caffeine increased fat oxidation during exercise by approximately 29% in lean individuals. Long-term fat loss? The evidence is weak. Caffeine tolerance dulls most of the effects within 1 to 4 weeks of regular use. Green tea, what the research shows. A meta-analysis of 11 studies found green tea catechins combined with caffeine increased fat oxidation more than caffeine alone. Daily consumption of green tea extract 500 to 1,000 milligrams of catechins over 12 weeks produced significant reductions in body fat percentage in multiple trials, even without changes in diet or exercise. One well-cited study showed a 4.6% reduction in body fat in the green tea group versus 0.2% in the control group over 12 weeks. EGCG specifically has been shown to enhance fat oxidation during moderate intensity exercise by up to 25%. Now here's the honest caveat. These effect sizes sound impressive in isolation, but in real-world terms, we're talking about modest contributions. Neither drink is a fat loss miracle. Neither will overcome a poor diet or sedentary lifestyle. What they can do is give you a measurable, consistent edge, and over weeks and months, consistent small edges compound into real results. Green tea appears to have a more durable edge over time for regular caffeine consumers. Coffee appears to have a larger acute effect for people with lower caffeine tolerance or who cycle off caffeine periodically. All right, here's where it all comes together into something you can actually use. You don't have to choose one forever. The smart play is to use both strategically, and here's exactly how. Upon waking, in the first 30 minutes after rising, water only, 500 milliliters minimum, your body is dehydrated, your cortisol is peaking, and neither coffee nor green tea belongs here yet. 90 minutes after waking, this is your window for black coffee. If you're going to drink it, no sugar, no dairy if possible, because dairy can slightly blunt the metabolic response. 1 to 2 cups. This is your primary caffeine hit for the day. If you're training in the morning, have your coffee 30 to 45 minutes before your workout for maximum fat oxidation during training. Mid-morning to early afternoon, roughly 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., switch to green tea. This maintains steady EGCG intake throughout the day without stacking excessive caffeine. 2 to 3 cups across this window gives you roughly 200 to 400 milligrams of EGCG and a light caffeine top-up that won't crater your sleep. Pre-afternoon workout, if applicable. Green tea 45 minutes before a moderate intensity session works well here. The EGCG plus light caffeine combo supports fat oxidation without the cortisol spike of coffee. After 2 p.m., cut off caffeine entirely if you want quality sleep. And here's why sleep matters more than any drink. Poor sleep elevates ghrelin, your hunger hormone, crushes willpower, and actively promotes fat storage. One bad night of sleep can undo 2 days of dietary discipline. Don't sabotage your fat loss efforts by chasing afternoon productivity with caffeine. One more thing, and this is critical. If you want to restore caffeine's fat-burning power, consider cycling off caffeine for 7 to 14 days every 6 to 8 weeks. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's worth it. Your sensitivity resets, and when you reintroduce coffee before a workout, you get the full metabolic effect again. And the winner is, if you're a habitual caffeine consumer, which most people are, green tea wins. The EGCG mechanism doesn't build tolerance the same way caffeine does. The fat oxidation benefits are sustained over time. The hormonal profile is cleaner, and the L-theanine gives you focus without the crash. If you're caffeine naive or you cycle off caffeine regularly, black coffee wins the acute fat-burning battle. The caffeine hit is harder and faster, and when your receptors aren't tolerant, the metabolic effect is significantly larger. The smartest protocol uses both. Coffee in the morning when the metabolic hit is strongest, green tea through the day for sustained EGCG exposure, and strategic caffeine cycling every 6 to 8 weeks to keep sensitivity high. Neither drink is magic. Both are tools, and like any tool, they only work when you know how to use them. If this gave you a new way to think about your morning routine, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who are tired of getting bad health advice. Subscribe if you want more videos like this, where we take the stuff you thought you already knew and actually break it down properly. And drop a comment. Are you a coffee person, a green tea person, or both? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.